Coming up today, New Year's Eve celebrations have been taking place around the world to mark the arrival of 2016. Most of the world's major cities celebrate with spectacular firework displays. Korea's National Assembly Speaker says he will ask the National Election Commission to resolve the electoral system standoff after the rival parties failed to reach a compromise by the midnight deadline. Plus, a huge fire breaks out at a luxury hotel in Dubai just before the city's big New Year's Eve celebrations were about to start. Stay tuned for these stories and more. Hello to our viewers around the world. It's midday on Friday, January 1st, 2016 here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us and Happy New Year. I'm Mark Broom. And we begin with Korea's New Year's celebrations, and it's a long-held tradition here that people travel to the most easterly parts of the country to watch the first sunrise of the year with their loved ones. Our Kim Ji-yeon was at one of the most popular spots as dawn broke, and she filed this report.
Many people brave long hours on the road to see the first sunrise of 2016 in Jeongdongjin, a small port village on the eastern coast in Gangneung City, Gangwon-do Province. It's one of the most popular sites in Korea to see the sunrise on the seashore next to the Jeongdongjin train station, which is listed in the Guinness Book of World Records as having the closest station and tracks to a beach anywhere in the world. The site was also made famous by a popular 90s Korean TV drama called The Hourglass. Thousands of people gathered here at Jeongdongjin to see the first sun of the new year rising over the East Sea. Many wish upon the bright red sun that their New Year's wishes and resolutions come true.
My wish is that I come back here again next year with my girlfriend.
I'm so happy to be here. Jeongdongjin is such a popular destination for sun and sightseeing.
The most popular tourist attraction, apart from Jeongdongjin train station, is the Hourglass Park, home to the world's largest hourglass sculpture, filled with 8 tons of sand. Visitors to the park also got to witness the turning of the hourglass on New Year's Day. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News, Gangneung.
Now, President Park Geun-hye started off the new year by visiting the Seoul National Cemetery. Accompanied by Prime Minister Hwang Kyo-ahn and other ministers, the president paid tribute to the nation's fallen heroes. She also sent a video message to the troops where she expressed her deep trust in the military and vowed to provide them complete support. Mentioning North Korea's landmine attack in the DMZ last year, President Park thanked the soldiers for keeping South Korea safe in the face of repeated threats from North Korea. And countries around the world have been celebrating the arrival of the new year with the usual festivities and parties. Korea welcomed in 2016 with a traditional bell-ringing ceremony at the Boshingak Pavilion in central Seoul. 11 people, including Seoul Mayor Park Won-soon, rang the bell 33 times at midnight as part of Korea's annual tradition to greet the new year. Now, Australia, which was among the first countries to usher in 2016, celebrated with fireworks, which lit up over the Sydney Opera House. China celebrated with performances and fireworks at the Imperial Ancestral Temple in Beijing's Forbidden City. Europe has also welcomed the new year as well, but under heavy security amid fear of possible terror attacks. Some 3,000 police officers were deployed in central London, where the traditional fireworks display was held along the River Thames. In the US, up to 1 million people are expected to gather at Times Square in New York City to watch the famous ball drop at midnight local time, which will be in just under 2 hours from now. Germany has started 2016 by issuing a terror warning in one of its major cities. Less than an hour before midnight on New Year's Eve local time, police in Munich warned residents to avoid crowds and train stations after German officials received information indicating that 5 to 7 terrorists from the Islamic State militant group were planning a suicide bomb attack. The authorities evacuated 2 train stations in the city, including Munich's main station. Now, police said they were taking the threat very seriously and that a large number of officers were deployed to track down the suspects. A huge fire broke out at a high-rise luxury hotel in Dubai ahead of New Year's Eve celebrations in that city. The local authorities say around 15 people have suffered minor injuries, but fortunately no one was killed. There's no indication yet of what might have caused the blaze. Jeongdongjin has the details.
The inferno erupted at around 9:30 p.m. on Thursday local time at one of Dubai's luxury downtown hotels. The Dubai police said the fire started on the 20th floor of the address downtown hotel before rapidly spreading upwards across dozens of floors. It looked as though the massive fire engulfed most of the building, but fire authorities said the flames only affected the outside of the 63-story structure. Internal fire extinguishers were said to have prevented the fire from spreading inside the building. 4 firefighting teams were deployed to the scene. All the residents and staff of the 5-star hotel are known to have been evacuated from the scene. The incident could have taken a tragic turn as it broke out just as revelers had gathered nearby to watch a massive fireworks display. The elaborate New Year's Eve fireworks show from the iconic Burj Khalifa went ahead as planned at midnight, even as smoke was still billowing from the blaze just a few blocks away. Jeongdongjin, Arirang News.
Now, following a series of failed talks between the rival parties on how to redraw Korea's electoral map, the nation's Assembly Speaker was left with no choice late last night but to submit a constituency draft. The current electoral district system has now been declared invalid, in line with a constitutional court ruling that was made back in 2014. Ji Myung-gil has more.
Assembly Speaker Chung Yoo-ah called the current situation a legislative emergency and asked the National Election Commission's redistricting committee to draw up a final plan.
I hope the committee panel comes up with a neutral plan that doesn't take into account political interests.
Chung's draft is likely to conform to the current system, allocating 246 seats to local constituencies and 54 to proportional representatives. Until now, the 2 parties have agreed to increase the number of elected seats by 7 to 253, thereby reducing the number of proportional seats to 47. However, both sides remain deadlocked over the details of the proportional representation system. On Friday, rival parties had mixed reactions to Chung's decision.
It was his only choice after Friday midnight.
You should ask the Assembly Speaker later on.
But there still is a chance that the parties may reach a last-minute agreement in an effort to maximize the number of local candidates within the House. In 2014, the Constitutional Court ruled that the current electoral map was unconstitutional and must be corrected. Chung plans to exercise his authority to directly table the new constituency bill at a plenary session slated for next Friday. Ji Myung-gil, Arirang News.
Korea's exports declined for the first time since 2012 last year, failing to hit the government's target trade volume of $1 trillion. The Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy said on this Friday that the country's exports dropped 7.9% on year in 2015. Posting $527 billion. Imports fell 16.9% to $437 billion. With imports falling at a faster pace than exports, Korea's trade surplus reached a record high of $90.9 billion. The ministry attributed the slump in exports and imports to the drastic fall in oil prices and the prolonged global economic slowdown. Korean automakers had a year to remember in 2015, producing well over 4 million units despite the general economic malaise. Our Lee Soo-eun has the details.
Korea's automobile industry has its foot on the gas. The economy might be in a period of sluggish growth, but Korean automakers are forecast to record their highest output in 4 years. 7 manufacturers produce a combined total of over 4.1 million units from January to November 2015. If the upward streak continued in December, the 2015 industry report card is likely to reach over 4.5 million units. If that's the case, the production figure will fall just short of the 2011 record of around 4.66 million units. The main driver behind the projected rise is Renault Samsung Motors. The automaker manufactures the popular Nissan Rogue model that recorded on-year growth of near 37%, with an output of 185,000 cars. Sangyong Motor and Kia Motors recorded on-year growth of 1.9 and 1.4% respectively, recording stronger output figures. Another key factor is the drop in prices due to the government's decision to lower the individual consumption tax on automobiles by 30% in August. The policy is no longer in effect as of January 1st, with the exception of hybrid models. Hyundai Motors saw production edge down nearly 1%, but Korea's biggest automaker maintained its leading position in terms of units at around 1.68 million. 이수은, Arirang News.
Now, the international community was tasked with reducing carbon emissions at the Paris Climate Summit in November. Korea, for one, aims to reduce emissions by 37% by the year 2030. It adopted an emission trading program 1 year ago, and now Kim Min-ji takes a look at whether it's going to help Korea achieve that goal.
Korea's emission trading scheme got off to a sluggish start. After a year of the system being adopted, the trading volume came to a mere 4.4 million tons. To give that figure some context, it makes up less than 1% of Korea's emissions cap for 2015, or some 540 million tons.
It's a really beginning stage. It's very hard to tell right now because emission trading system is a very, very new market mechanism in Korea. Maybe adjusting period should be required, probably maybe within 3 years.
So how does the system work? The scheme gives companies an allowance, and if they surpass the cap, they can buy credits from others. If they don't hit the cap, they can sell leftover credits. The market-based policy is currently being implemented in 34 countries worldwide, including EU members and New Zealand. In Korea, 525 companies, including Samsung Electronics and POSCO, are taking part, with 1 ton traded at around $10. Come June, the first evaluation period will take place and will provide a glimpse into whether the system is working or not. But some experts say structural changes are needed if Korea really wants to reduce emissions down the line.
The cheap trading price is diverting companies from reducing carbon emissions, as it's more profitable to buy credit rather than sell. Another downside is cheap energy prices in Korea. Due to the cheap prices of energy sources in Korea, such as fossil fuels or electricity, companies find no reason to invest in renewable energy sources.
Korea has pledged to cut carbon emissions by 37% by 2030. While it may not be an easy task, experts say Korea is far behind global standards. They say local companies should not think of reducing carbon emissions as a burden, but as new business opportunities and a benefit for the economy as a whole. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Now it's that time of year when people make their New Year's resolutions, and for many, quitting smoking still tops the list of goals to accomplish. And with last year's price hike on cigarettes here in Korea, one would imagine it might have become easier to stub out the habit, but it seems like it really is not. Our Iji-won has more.
Exactly a year ago, the government nearly doubled the price of cigarette packs to 4,500 Korean won, or roughly $3.85. The aim was to encourage people to quit smoking, but the question is, just how effective has the measure been?
I stopped smoking when the price first went up, but then I started again 2 months later.
I only quit smoking for 3 months.
Before the tax was imposed, the government had said it was expecting cigarette sales to drop by about 34% from the previous year, but the data shows a decrease of just 24%. According to data from the Korea Tobacco Association, cigarette sales dipped slightly in the first few months of 2015, but crept back up again as the year went on. By the second half of the year, cigarette sales had dropped to about 300 million packs a month, only slightly less than the year before. Based on the data, it doesn't appear many people have been able to quit. That's certainly been the case at a government smoking cessation program launched by the National Health Insurance Service. The program began in February and more than 162,000 people signed up through September. Of those people, only 3,400, just 2%, have quit smoking. However, some experts say it's too early to tell as people need at least 6 months after they finish the 12-week program to be counted as successful. Meanwhile, the government still has faith in its programs and it has other plans to help lower smoking rates.
Along with the tax, the government had planned to initiate other anti-smoking policies, including a plan to put images showing the effects of smoking on cigarette packs. The new packaging will only come onto the market in December 2016 due to the amount of preparation time required. But when it does, it's expected to have a significant impact.
The expert said Korea should also ban in-store cigarette displays and all cigarette ads. He said if these policies were put into place, the government would see the number of smokers in the country decrease significantly. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Just a selection of the wonderful firework displays we've been seeing around the world on this New Year's Day, New Year's Eve in different parts of the world. Of course, the big celebrations in the US are coming up in just a couple of hours' time. So if you're watching us in the United States, do look forward to those. Thank you as always for watching. And once again, a very happy New Year to all our viewers around the world. Goodbye.